Hey guys, hi. First of all, it is my first podcast and I'm so excited. Whew, I'm nervous, but it is what it is. It is the Nurspreneur Academic podcast. I've been thinking about it for a while. Since retiring as a nurse, I guess this gives me a lot of opportunities to think and, get creative and just live life and pour out to so many nurses out there who really want to do it but are scared. I would say just do it. Just go for your dreams. Because at the end of the day, it's never a good time. But yeah, we launched it, the Nurspreneur Academy podcast. It's gonna be a lot of learning along the way. So every time you sit here, I promise to give you guys good, useful information. If you don't know me already, I'm sure you should because you can check me out on YouTube, Christy Asa, or Nurspreneur Academy, Instagram as well. So pretty much, my name is Christy Asa, retired nurse and now a six-figure Airbnb superhost and a full-time real estate investor. I also do wholesale. I wholesale a lot, and I love to wholesale. So why are we here? Why is this podcast? I wanted to create this podcast because I saw nurses. We are when I came to the States, it was just about the American dream and going to nursing school and getting a job. That was the American dream, right? But it wasn't the American dream at some point. That's not what I wanted. And I decided to go different ways and start investing in real estate and Airbnbs. And when I started my first Airbnb, which was my 2-bedroom, 2 full-bath apartment, it was good. It was good. I learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes, took a lot of notes, and I duplicated the process. So a lot of times when we hear Airbnb, we all want to jump in and be like, oh, let's go, right? I'm going to make that money. We're going to make six figures that year. But really, that's not the case. So yeah, you will make 6 figures. It doesn't take one Airbnb to give you 6 figures. You have to have a couple of Airbnbs to actually make 6 figures. On your first year, I'm not going to guarantee you that things are going to work as smooth because it's business. It's just like every other business. Things might not go as planned. You have good days, you have bad days. At the end of the day, you just have to figure a way around to pivot accordingly, especially with the changing seasons. I had my first booking. I was excited. I was in the middle of hi Tracy, I'm waiting for you. I was in the middle of a contract, and it was my personal apartment, and I was not prepared. So I had my personal stuff out, and one day at work I was like, "Oh crap! I keep getting these bookings. How do I shut it off so I can go home and put my personal stuff away?" So guys, I took a flight, went back home, and I got a closet. I got a lock, and I put my personal stuff in the closet, and I went my happy way after that. Then I was confident that it was gonna get booked with my stuff secured because I got a review and one of the guests was complaining that it was it looked like somebody lived there and they had just put their stuff in. So it's more like a all I say, it's not more like an Airbnb, it's more of a shared space. So that really resonated with me. So one of the things that I want you guys to always think about, I always encourage you guys to start from your backyard, but I want you to also think about if you're starting with your place. Let's say you want to do a shared space, just make sure that you put your personal belongings away and lock it up. And if you're giving out that room as a shared space, it's actually that room, and none of your personal stuff has to be in there because the guest is gonna complain. They're not stupid; they can see it, right? So they're gonna ding you for that. So make sure you put your stuff away. And then another thing I want to talk to you guys about is that you're using your personal stuff, so you have to find a way to get help. You have to you can't do everything by yourself. I was on the road. It was hard to get cleaners, and I had to ask because I was my mentor at the time. I was asking. I was like, "How do I get cleaners? What's the best way to get cleaners?" That was very confusing for me because somebody checked out, and I was scared because I was like, "What if they go in there and steal something?" But then you have to find a way to get somebody you can trust. I had a cleaner who I could trust, and you know, my reviews were just going up. The place looks absolutely clean. And mind you, I've never met this guy. Was a guy. He did a great job. Mind you, I've never met him. I was like, wow, he must be doing something real good. And one day I went back home. It was tax season, and I decided to stop by the unit and see how things are going. The place was absolutely clean, and it gave me that hotel feel. You know, white sheets. I'm a fan of white guys. I love white sheets. And I was like, oh, damn, this is nice. So I called him, and that was my first time talking to him on the phone, because we were always communicating through the app. And I encourage you guys to always communicate through the app. And I said, hey, do you actually clean? Like, is it you or is your company? He was like, no, that's me. So wait, you know, a man cleans. Oh wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, so he was like, no, it's me. I said, wait, really? You really clean? You like literally clean, and you've been cleaning my unit the whole time. So, excuse me. When he said that, I decided to go back on the app and look at his profile picture, because I looked at the profile picture, but I guess I did not take note of what it was. So I looked at the profile picture. Mind you guys, that's one thing we always think. We think that certain jobs are for men and certain jobs are for women, or for some reason somebody does it better than the other. So it was that misconception that really got me thinking. The whole time was thinking my cleaner was a female. And I really did not pay attention to his profile picture, because I was like, oh, maybe that's just a profile picture. When I looked at his profile picture and then I had talked to him, it kind of like, I was like, wow, he's really a guy. So I invited him out to just come have lunch with me so I could get to know him, because at this point I felt like I could trust him with that particular unit, and I could trust him to do other stuff, and maybe we could work together potentially in growing the business. And we got talking, we got to know each other, and he really did help me. He really did help me a lot. But oh well, he grew up to bigger things, and there you go. I encouraged him to start his own cleaning company, because guys, he did a good job, and I'm sure he's still doing a good job. So that's one of the things to expect. Things are not just, you know, everything is not just going to fall in place. I know it's another source of income, and we're expecting it to be all nice and glory. No, it's not going to be all nice and glory. It's going to be some pitfalls. Some days you're going to be figuring it out. Some days you have it figured out, but then, and some days you make some good money. There was one time I made $5,000 that month. I got this booking, and I was like, I was in the plane, we're about to take off, and I got this, congratulations, you have a booking. I was like, I sent it to a mentor. I said, oh sure, we have a booking, 5,000. It was 5,000. And then some days you just not get as much, but you will at least try to break even. So one of those things, you expect the unexpected. And another thing for you guys to always expect your first year is that I know we always want to go out and just do something really luxurious, and just start really small, just the best way you can, you know. Don't try, because here's the thing, we want to overthink stuff. Yeah, you want to be like, oh, I got to get this nice couch, I'm trying to figure out the theme. You're never going to figure it out. Okay, you're always going to want to figure it out. Just go to the store and buy some nice looking couches, and buy a pair of white sheets, white towels. That's the easiest way you can go, and don't try to figure things out. I had a student, she said she was trying to figure out a name for her LLC. I'm like, really? No, it's not that deep. It's just LLC, it's just a name. I said, find something, Christie Consulting, whatever. It's not that deep. So we get stuck on this mindset of, I want to figure things out. I'm trying to find a name. I don't just know what's the right name. You cannot get stuck on trying to figure things out. We're all going to die without figuring things out. That's one thing you all should always keep at the front of your mind, right? And so with the theme, I did not have a theme on my unit. It was my apartment, so really wasn't themed. It was just nice and clean. That's it. And it got booked. It stayed booked for the most part. And so when somebody says, I'm trying to figure it out, a theme, yes, that's good, but that's probably good for your second and your third unit, not for your first one. Just keep it nice and simple and get your first month's rent. Another thing. So first month's rent, budgeting, right? We have to budget. If you do not budget, you're setting yourself up for failure, especially if you're trying to get your first Airbnb. call the landlord, figure out the rent. I already talked to you guys, which I talked about in one of my videos about budgeting. But make sure that you set aside just enough funds for your first month's rent, and also to get your apartment up and running on the first of the month. Because if you go sign that lease, right, and you make your first month's payment, and then you have an empty apartment, what's the point? You're trying to figure out how to get finances for it? Nah. So try to budget something. Try to look around Facebook Marketplace. Look at the average of everything what's selling at that point, and try to, I would say, budget about, depending on your rent, about give and take 5,000 to 6,000 to set up just something really nice and simple. Prices of everything has gone up right now, so I don't know about you guys, but I'm shopping for, I have a couple of one-on-one clients. I'm setting up their Airbnbs for them, and what I had budgeted for is really, I'm really like, oh my God, regretting I should have asked for more money, because I was budgeting in the mindset of before the recession or before the economy is going the way it's going right now. So I under budgeted myself. So I'm like, okay, maybe now things have to change. Maybe I have to let them know that, hey, you know what, this thing is actually more expensive than I thought, so we're gonna need more money. So you have to budget, guys. It's really good for you to budget. And budget, you cannot always budget correctly, but you somewhere want to be around that area, because if you sign a lease and you go to the store and everything is not what you thought it was, then you're kind of stuck. So depending on your rent, about 5,000, 6,000, all everything inclusive, that's good. And another thing, what to expect, guests. You're gonna have some real special guests, because keep in mind, you're working with people of different, it's just like a family, like the Brady Bunch. You have different people with different characters. That's just how your guests are gonna be. You're gonna have the really nice and respectful guests. You're gonna have the annoying and demanding guests. You're gonna have petty ones. So you have to keep an open mind when becoming a host, because some guests are just not gonna like just because they wanna be petty. So keep in mind about complaints from your guests, about guests not being satisfied with their service, and find a way to respond to these guests without you putting your feelings out there, because that's another thing. When you are replying, if a guest leaves and leaves you a review, and when you are replying on these platforms, what you should do is, I think on VRBO, I know for sure they have a review guide on how to respond to your guests. So before replying, I encourage you guys to always go back and trying to read what are the guidelines. How can you better reply to these guests? Because think about it, you are not just replying to these guests, but at the end of the day, you're replying to the future guests, because they're gone, they're done, okay? But you're replying to the future guests. I don't care how bad a review is. When a guest wants to book your place, I know I do that all the time. I read the reviews, but if I see that one bad review, it kind of intrigues me. So what I do is I go back and I read the whole, like the entire review. I read what the guest has to say, you know, what happened, and then I read the manager's reply. Listen, that's exactly how your future guest is looking, okay? They're gonna read the entire problem, what happened, you know, why do we have this one bad review? And then they're gonna have to read the manager's reply. So how you reply to a crazy, a crazy situation really does matter. Because if they see that you handle that professionally, I bet you, I don't care what happened in that unit, unless it was a fire, they're gonna want to book with you, because okay, well, this guest was really angry, but check this out, the manager replied in a really professional way. So when you're replying for your future guests and not just for your current guests, or for your past guests, I would say, because they're gone. Another thing, guys, YouTube University, right? We all like to go on YouTube or Google and get free information. You can only get so much out of free information, because at the end of the day, you need to find somebody who mentor you, somebody who is successful at what you're doing, and you really want to do that, and just model success. You know, this is success leaves clues. And you spend more money not investing in a mentor than investing in a mentor from the very beginning. I was on this platform at one time. I think it was for nurses, and a nurse was complaining. She was like, she said, "How did you find your first property and they didn't live in?" Okay. She said, I think she started a fix and flip project, and she got stuck in the middle of the project, and she put it on the post that she needed help. I was like, you should have just gotten help from the beginning. That's what happens when you really try to get, you try to figure it out on YouTube or Google, and then you get stuck, and then you lost a lot of money, and it leaves a sour taste in your mouth at that point. Because that's, if you really dig deep with some of my students I interview, because I don't really take everybody in my program, I really interview, have you ever done this course before? Some of them, yeah. So what makes you think this is going to be different? Maybe you just did not do the work. Maybe you had a great mentor, but you just, you didn't go out there and do assignments, because I do give assignments in my courses. So if at the end of the class you don't have a property, or you're still figuring out the name, so maybe that's the problem. Maybe you had a whole time with the mentor, they offered you good information, but then you didn't practice it. It's not a guarantee that by the time you are done with that class you have an Airbnb, but if you're doing the work, you will get an Airbnb. I can vouch for myself. If I invest in something, I must at least break even with $1,000 in my pocket, because that's how I know I work for it. I know I work to put that money in that person's account, and I know that once I put that money there, I have to show up no matter what. So I show up and I do the best I possibly can to at least see the results, because if you do the work, you're going to see the results. So a lot of us always say it doesn't work, but really the reality is, did you put in the work? Did you do the homework? Like, what did you do? Did you reach out for help? Yeah. So kind of excuses like that. And then let me answer this question that you didn't have to live in. How did you find your first property that you didn't have to live in? So I took a class about starting your Airbnb property, and I pretty much followed the instructor on how to get, I'll call him an instructor. So I followed my mentor, my coach, on how to get the property. So what you do, pretty much, you make calls, because it's like having a job away from your job, right? So you sit down, you schedule something about discipline. A lot of us say we don't have time, but then what I want you to do is take down a book and write down, from when you wake up to when you go to bed, what are the tasks you're doing every single day? What do you do from 8 to 10, from 10 to 11, from 11 to 12? Then you probably figure out you have time somewhere in between, because I bet you there's something you're doing that you really should not be doing. So a lot of us say we don't have time, but the reality is we have time, and we just don't prioritize correctly. We are so stuck in our ways of going back home. And when I say go back home, what I mean is that comfort zone is home. So we are so stuck on going back home once we start, and you don't get a result, and you're like, I'll just do it some other day. So, but anyways, what had happened was, he gave us homework, and I remember working night shift, and on a travel assignment. I was in Texas at the time, and he said, this is the list of companies who offer corporate leasing. I want you guys to call. You should make this your homework for the next day. It's like, damn, this is a long list. But what I asked myself was, Chrissy, you work 12 hours for somebody else. Why can you not dedicate 1 hour for yourself? So guys, I would get off work, come back, sit on the computer, and start calling these landlords, because that was my push. That was when I asked myself that question. I realized that I'm dedicating my whole entire day to somebody else, and then I can't even put that to myself. So I will sit down, give myself an hour to call landlords, and you are not going to get your first yes. So you call and you keep calling, and a lot of us get discouraged after a couple of phone calls. But let me tell you, you get more no's than you get a yes. But every no you get gets you closer to your yes. So it wasn't like, oh, there's the second property, congratulations. No, that was not how it went down. I got the first, I made a couple of phone calls. I think it was the third day or so when I called, and you were like, sure, we do it. Luckily enough, I had all of my business stuff up and running. So that was what they asked for, and I presented that. So I just pretty much made phone calls, asking the questions as I was taught, and I got a yes, and voila, there you go. And when they sent me the contract to sign, all of this I did when I was traveling. And I comment, I'm like, oh, we have the contract. He helped me get that one as well because I was working, sometimes you need that extra help. And the contract did not stipulate that it was going to be used as a short-term rental. It wasn't any fault of the landlord. Sometimes, it's not something they do all the time, so they probably don't have that on there. And he said, make sure you let them know to add that clause that it's a short-term rental and you're allowed to host guests and you are not going to be staying in the property. And I emailed the landlord and she was like, sure, she'll do that. And she fixed it, So she did fix that. And somebody asked me this yesterday, one of my students who wanted to sign up for the one-on-one program. And she's like, Christy, how do you structure your contract in such a way that the landlord is aware and everybody signs that you're not using it as a short-term rental? And I said, just put it in there and emphasize that it has to be on there because, people have getting their feelings sometimes and they just want to act funny. But then you want to make sure you're protected at all costs. So I said, well, just put it on there, just if they don't sign it, well, you cannot sign because at the end of the day, you have to protect yourself, okay? What if they didn't tell you that? That was her question. And I said, just put it on there and just go with it. And when you put it, always make sure you notarize it. But yeah, so that was pretty much, the kind of hiccup I had along the way with my first property and my second property, how I got my second property. At the end of the day, guys, we all want to do something besides what we are doing. And the only thing you have to do is you have to figure a way out to, like Neo always says, it has to work or it has to work, You have to figure a way out to always keep pushing. Maybe you're not getting the results. If you're not getting the results, you have to figure out your plan. Maybe you're not doing something right. Maybe you're focusing more on YouTube University, right? And maybe you're not investing in the mentor, and maybe you're not doing your homework. So if you're getting into an entrepreneurship, whatever it is, Airbnbs, real estate, whatever platform, whatever hustle you're trying to get into, always keep an open mind. Always keep an open mind. But if that is your dream, that is your goal in life, I would say don't stop pursuing it. I would say just keep an open mind that things are going to happen, but you have to learn to pivot. You have to learn to handle stress better because it will get stressful at the end of the day. And you have to learn to be with the right people because I tell you, when the entrepreneurship is hard, it's not for the faint of heart. But when life hits you, you need somebody you can confide in, not somebody who said, I told you so. So guys, that's just how it goes. That's just how it goes in the entrepreneurial world. But this is my first podcast, okay? So excuse me if I'm kind of nervous. But guys, I will see you guys on the next one. So stay tuned.